Canadians learned today Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was recently tested for COVID-19 for the first time. Speaking earlier, Trudeau said he sought a test last month after coming down with a throat tickle. CBC's Hannah Thibodeau joins us now from Yarmouth, Nova Scotia. Hi, Hannah. Tell us a bit more about this.
Hey, Bashi. Yeah, it was surprising to find this out. And the question was asked because of what we're seeing going on in the United States with the president, Donald Trump, coming down with COVID-19, a lot of his aides. And one of the things that presidential candidate Joe Biden has said now because of all this is that he will, whenever he gets a test, will tell people when he got the test and what the results were. So the question was asked of the prime minister, would you do the same? He said he got a test in mid-September because he wasn't feeling well at that point. Take a listen to how he explains it.
Earlier in September, I had a bit of a throat tickle is probably the best way I could say it, a bit of a raspy throat. So I checked with my doctor and he recommended I get tested. I got tested. It was negative. And I went back to work a few days later when the doctor told me I was clear to do it. Every step of the way, I've been following public health advice, following expert advice, and I will continue to follow expert advice on that.
Okay, so to pick up out of that, here are the highlights. He tested negative. He followed public health advice, but did he answer the question as to whether all tests he gets in the future will be made public and whether the results will be made public? He didn't answer that. And of course, that's one of the questions now that people are wondering, in particular, when we see what's happening in the United States, Vashi.
Yeah, it sure is. The Power Panel is going to discuss it a bit later on. Thanks, Hannah. I appreciate that update. The CBC's
welcome.
Hannah Thibodeau for us in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia.
Earlier in September, I had a bit of a throat tickle is probably the best way I could say it, a bit of a raspy throat. So I checked with my doctor and he recommended I get tested. I got tested. It was negative. And I went back to work a few days later when the doctor told me I was clear to do it.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau there revealing today that he tested negative for COVID-19 in September. Neither the Prime Minister nor his office shared any information about his symptoms being tested or any kind of self-isolation at that period. Why not? Time for the Power Panel to talk about just that. In Toronto, Melissa Lantsman, National Vice President of Enterprise Canada, also coming to us from that city, Council of Public Affairs, Brad Levine, and over in Montreal, Yolande James, former Quebec Liberal Cabinet Minister. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you. Happy Monday. Melissa, I'll start with you. So the reason I think this is interesting is there's a couple of reasons. First of all, the conversation south of the border where like every minute, a doctor comes out and not necessarily provides all information, but, we know every movement that's happening there, when the tests were taken, what the results were at that time. So certainly it took me by surprise when I heard the Prime Minister say that, to be honest, earlier today. And then second, there was a big conversation when Aaron O'Toole was in a long lineup and decided to avail himself of testing for MPs. A lot of conversation. Did he skip a line? Was he supposed to do that? Should he have done that? Some parties said that they wouldn't participate in that. What do you think about what the Prime Minister said today?
Well, look, I suppose I'm supposed to be exercised about this, but I'm frankly just not. I think he followed public health advice. I'm glad that he tested negative, and I'm not sure that he did anything that he wasn't supposed to do. I frankly was surprised that he hadn't been getting tested regularly. He's a leader of a G7 country who's been in contact with a number of people, and I thought out of an abundance of precaution, if we can still use that with a straight face after last week, that he would be tested more often. So I'm not particularly exercised. I'm not particularly exercised by the Prime Minister perhaps getting a sort of a different test than anyone else. He's the Prime Minister, and he's got a big job to do as we come into the second wave or as we're in it.
Brad, what do you think? And do you think it's okay that, the standards are clearly very different, right? Like in the U.S., there's a lot of questions about this for the president. There's a lot more disclosure. Here, we just don't normally operate that way, should we?
No, I don't think we need to do what they do in the States. That's not the case. But I think it's not either what Trudeau did or what they're doing down south are the two. I think that we need our global leaders, our heads of government, heads of state, to be 100% upfront, transparent, and honest about what's transpired. They certainly don't do that in the States in this last round. This past 72 hours has been an absolute gong show in terms of transparency, showing more confusion more confusion than answers. Watching your colleagues out of Washington the past couple of days have been awful. That's not the alternative to what Trudeau he was answering the question and said, oh, by the way, I've been tested. I agree with Melissa, though. I think that in order for us to have, we need to have trust in our leaders, not only our public health officials, but those who are elected, who are providing us with information and direction. We have to have trust. And, to find out after the fact. I think it would have been better had they set up regular scheduled screenings where he says, I'm just going to get tested every Wednesday and I'll report out the results or something to that effect. Because to hear it, by the way, last month I had a tickle and all of a sudden now I'm in the clear, seems a bit haphazard in the way in which he's done that. That may erode for some people that trust that I think he did build up in the spring with the daily announcements and being, very good with communicating, but I think that he could have done a bit better job. I think he should have reported out the results a lot sooner.
Well, and the other thing right at the end was that he wouldn't. He was asked pretty specifically, would you commit to reporting in the future if you know what I mean? Like if you take a test in the future and the results of that, and the Prime Minister didn't offer a specific answer. Yolande, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I don't see the problem in wanting to, for your last question, as to giving us a clear answer as to whether he will take tests in the future and tell us when he takes a test. If that's going to give people more confidence considering the impact on what's happening on south of the border, I have no problem with that. That being said, I really don't think that he did anything wrong here. What I would want to know, there are no clear rules, and maybe we should have a discussion about that, or a larger discussion as to what exactly we want the leaders of our governments to share with respect to their health and so forth. That's always a question that's recurring. But in this instance, I think what's most important is to understand, A, when there's a test that's positive, B, whether he's in a situation where he didn't have a test because he didn't have symptoms, but he's obviously surrounded by someone who has, which was the case when his wife at the beginning tested positive. Or if we were to learn that somebody in his entourage tests positive, I think that is relevant information for us to have, given that it could impact his ability and how he does his job. But other than that, honestly, I know it was a news story today, but I guess I'm more so like Melissa. I didn't feel like it was that was a big revelation because the test was negative.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.